Hi, everybody. Welcome to the webinar, as Caitlin said. Thank you for that introduction, Caitlin. We'll start with a quick introduction of who is going to be speaking with you today. I'm Chris Myers. I'm one of the ServiceNow principals on the ServiceNow team. So I'm responsible for a lot of the ITOM pieces as it relates to ServiceNow for AHEAD. So Eli, I'm going to pass it over to you, and then we'll get started with the deck.
Hey, thanks for that, Chris. I'm Eli Mercado. I'm a data protection specialist here at AHEAD. I basically manage any type of opportunity or solution design in regards to data protection, disaster recovery, and cyber threats.
Awesome. And so today we're going to kind of talk about how those two worlds collide and weave together, and we'll do a demo. So the first part of this, we'll kind of talk about our methodology when it comes to stitching together solutions like the Avamar and ServiceNow solutions, as well as some of the other pieces of our company as a whole. And that kind of leads into this first slide. So this stitching story is really at the heart of what AHEAD does as a company, right? We like to take folks like Eli and folks like myself and create a project success and solution success type of methodology. And as you see, using relentless automation, the AI ops pieces, the enterprise cloud, which is your ServiceNow and AWS pieces, the DevOps concepts, and putting those all together with the integrated security really can create, and as you'll see later, an automated solution that really allows you to scale it and really be very agile and flexible with your not only your storage components, but also the CMDB pieces and the things that supports within IT. So we go to the next slide there, Eli.
So why is automation protection so important? So as you already know, right, when we have data protection products, right, sometimes we end up with multiple dashboards or multiple tools, and we're trying to accomplish this very simple task, but we need multiple tools to achieve it, right? And a lot of times we have backlogs of end user requests. I need a restore. This backup's not working. I deleted a virtual machine, things like that. And so now your IT administrator has to manage all of these requests, whether big or small, while needing multiple tools, right? And there are some companies who have the luxury of having a sole backup administrator, but most companies today have infrastructure administrators, right? And so they wear multiple hats. They have multiple skills within the data set. So they're managing VMware environments, storage environments, networking. They're also managing data protection and disaster recovery, right? So they're wearing multiple hats. And with that, we don't have consistent process, right? There's 100 different ways to do something. Nothing's really repeatable, and the result, the time to result, it changes. So some results can take up to 30 minutes, some can take days, some can take weeks, because there's no specific process set for that, right? So, but when we can automate, when we can go through and automate these tasks, now everything is repeatable, right? We have a repeatable process. And then we also add self-service to that, where now instead of creating multiple tickets saying, hey, I deleted virtual machines, we're allowing end users to actually make their own requests and restore their own devices or back up their own devices. So with automation and orchestration, we make all of that possible and give that process end to end.
And one thing to kind of add to that from an ITIL perspective, if you go back to the last slide there, the automating of this data protection can really help you with your SLAs and incident management within the ITIL framework, right? Using those ITSM and automation concepts so that you don't have SLAs or P2, P3, P4 SLAs that are lasting days, and you have metrics that are skewed because of that. So automating this data protection when you have ITSM, let's call it issues or records or concepts that come in through the incident management module, you're really going to be able to use this automated data protection to resolve things quickly. It's kind of like the automated resolution that's in event management concepts, right? We have an event that comes in, and then some AI ops pieces will resolve that. While automated data protection is the same type of concept, it also follows the same type of, kind of metric improvement as well.
And we also want to mention, like, what is automating to the business, right? How is there any value to the business? And one of the use cases we see is being able to reallocate some of that headcount, right? Because we have employees that have multiple skill sets, right? They have ownership in multiple departments. Now we can give them priority tasks, right, to handle business objectives and complete projects, rather than having to stop and go back to a lot of these self-service tasks that can be handled through automation. They can basically hand that off and say, "Yep, we'll let our self-service process go through it," and now we can reallocate all of that headcount and resources to business objectives and projects.
And the last thing I want to bring up before we move on is, don't forget about the CMDB aspect of this, right? Being able to have that automated population of your CIs in the CMDB really allows you to have full visibility into your storage components as well as your infrastructure. And so to that first point there, improving the visibility with fewer tools, you're really going to be able to see that in the CMDB, and it's really going to allow your storage environments to come to life. So all these things we talked about kind of wrap, that whole automated protection in a bow, and really provide you the value that you need as an organization.
So what do we do, right? What do we do to help? And I think what we did twofold is you've probably seen a lot of vendors out there and say, yeah, we integrate with ServiceNow, right? And what they're really saying is we have an API that will integrate, right? And you go and build it. And what we did through our partnerships with Dell, we collaborated together and said, well, rather than, hey, you go build it because here's an API set, well, we built it for you, right? We want to be your premier integrator, right? We have the developers and the skill set in our organization that will basically allow a somewhat of a turnkey type integration, rather than going through 6 months of development and say, okay, how do these workflows are going to go? And we also simplified that, right? We don't necessarily want to replace Avamar, because again, just for housekeeping, we integrated Avamar application into what we use to integrate with ServiceNow. We don't want to replace that, right? It's a wonderful UI. Dell has done a really good job of integrating multiple components and features into that set. What we wanted is how do we leverage ServiceNow, and how do we get that to align with company objectives, right? And what we did is we landed on three main objectives, right? First was the dashboard for the environment, right? We wanted to have some sort of view into ServiceNow. So if I'm an administrator and I want to put on the hat, right? Put on the hat of a day-to-day administrator. When I log into ServiceNow, because that's where I'll normally live out. That's where all my objectives are, my tickets, my time cards, everything that I do day-to-day within the organization is done through ServiceNow. So I want to have a view when I log into what's happening to Avamar, right? Did last night's backups run? What's my current SLA? How many failed, right? So having that view into ServiceNow allows us to have a beautiful overview of what is going on within Avamar and how we can interact with it. Chris, you want to say
I do, actually. This is where the CMDB is going to be really important, and why I brought it up in that first slide. The CMDB is going to be the leverage part of the dashboards, right? The data is going to live in the CMDB. The dashboards are going to refer to that. But the idea that it's automated in a automated population really allows you to keep hands off when it comes to the CI data and the attributes. And it gets into that intelligent phase of a CMDB, right? We now have a DevOps approach to populating a CMDB where it's low touch and we're just really focusing on the automation and the updates of attributes. And we're leveraging that data now through dashboards, which if anybody's implemented a CMDB in ServiceNow, they know that that's a little bit difficult to do if you don't have the right data. And so we allowed this integration with the storage components of Avamar to present that dashboard to the users who care about it most. This is also, if you have a CI ownership model and governance, where you can really see what's going on within the Avamar environment and make the best decisions possible from a governance standpoint.
Thanks. And then we get into backup and restore orchestration, right, which includes self-service, right? We wanted to be able to kick off backups, retry backups, kick off restores, and then allow end users to start their own backup or restore request. And this is where we're talking about having ownership of assets, right? Where Chris is talking about the CMDB. So as we continue to pull in asset inventories into our CMDB, there is an awareness of where our ownerships are, right? So when our end users are logging in, they're not necessarily grabbing information from, let's just say the human resource department, right? They know, the CMDB is going to know that these assets, they're owners of that group, and then hide the rest of the information so that the user's only seeing their pertinent information. Chris?
Yeah, and so the other component of that, this is where the service catalog is going to come into play, right? Presenting a category of catalog items and requests for the business to use, and using user entitlements within the ServiceNow instance to show and hide those requests for those that need to see it and those that don't. That's where we can really leverage that piece of ServiceNow along with the orchestration components in Integration Hub to be able to create this, right? So using Flow Designer and the workflow context to support a request item, it takes away from a lot of the work. And what the problem we see a lot of customers face is what we really call the swivel chair approach, right? I have a request that comes in from ServiceNow. I have a catalog task that tells me to go do something. I need to go log into another application or another part of my infrastructure to perform that task. Now we're doing it in an automated fashion and orchestrating, which takes away that swivel chair approach, which it frees up time and resources to do other things, the strategic initiatives that you pay them to do, and you pay for with your technology. Now it's all automated, and business objectives can be achieved a lot faster.
So, and then the third piece is automated backup remediation, right? So it's one thing to have backups that fail, right? And in most cases, it really comes down to a report, right? What happened to last night's backup? So if I have 100 virtual machines that I'm backing up and 99 backed up, and one failed, right? And so everything is still a retroactive approach, right? Once it happens, what now? Well, let me just wake up, we have to wait for the next morning. And then once we figure out, okay, what's going on with that one virtual machine? And as Chris said, we have to now go and explore into other tools. What we did is we took that a step further, right? So we're pulling in information and events that are happening with Avamar, right? So we know when failed backups are happening. We know when checkpoints are failing. We know when validations are failing. We know when nicks are dropping. But then we take that a step further and saying, hey, well, let's create an incident, right? We know that there's a failed backup. Let's create an incident so that the proper people are get an alert, right? And say, hey, here is a specific job that it failed, right? And now we have an incident. And within the incident ticket, we have the ability to retry a job. Because in most cases, it's just a retry, right? Maybe we're just a queuing issue and we could just re-kick off the job right from the incident. And then that's it. Once we retry the job, ticket is closed and we move on. We've added another piece to that where if the same ticket for the same asset happens, right? So now we have an SLA violation. Now we're out of compliance. We have the same asset that has failed 3 times. Now we would escalate that with an additional ticket, right? But here we have a view into management. We have a view into the NOC team, the network team, the virtual team, right? So because now we have not just a single failure, we have three fails in a row, and now our virtual machine is out of compliance.
Yeah, and just further, this is where the ITOM components really come into play from an event management standpoint. For those of you that have implemented event management, we can really use those event correlation rules to monitor, if you will, quote unquote, the Avamar integration and utilizing that capability to kind of create a holistic solution around ITOM and Integration Hub and the Avamar CMDB. So think of all these concepts when you think of, why you should integrate with Avamar and the data protection piece, and a lot of what we're doing here at AHEAD is, again, I'm going to go back to the same term I talked about a little earlier, is creating that stitching story between, the different concepts of ServiceNow and data protection, and really getting them to work together.
And, just as we said, this is also, this was a 6-month-long project that we did alongside Dell. We've worked with some of the Dell developers to come up with some of the best, what are better workflows that we can work with in collaboration with our team as well. We had data protection engineers involved. We had ServiceNow developers involved, principal architects, right? And through that collaboration with Dell, we were able to come up with this integration. All right, so I don't want to bore you with slideware. So, we talked about the dashboard and what it can do. So I figure, so now that we're here, let's kind of look at what the dashboard will look like. Give me a moment to slide through. Here we go. Here we go. All right, so here we go. So we have, this is our Avamar integration into ServiceNow. This is what your dashboard would look like. So if you're a backup administrator, when you log into ServiceNow, this is exactly what you would see, right? This is what we're talking about, having an overview of what's happening within Avamar, right? So we have the ability to see if there's any activities or any jobs that are in queue, right? If we have jobs that are running, we will be able to see them instantly. And again, this isn't retroactive information. This is inline information, right? So ServiceNow is constantly pulling information from Avamar. Here we have our activities, so we know how many completed and how many failed. So these two widgets here are customizable. So if I want to change it to the last 24 hours, the last month, or if I want to see an SLA, so I can calculate an SLA and say if I have 100 virtual machines, 99 completed, well, I'm at 99% of my SLA, right? So it's just being able to generate very quick, very useful information, right? So it's one thing just to have information, but it has to be useful. So again, when a backup administrator logs in, he can see right away, he or she can see right away, okay, this is what's going on within my environment, right? How many jobs are failing? Why are they failing? Same thing with our pie charts. We're able to see if we're running, how many restores we're running, how many on demand, how many scheduled backups are going. And again, this is through the entire Avamar set. So if we have multiple instances, all that information can be brought into this dashboard. We, being that this is a ServiceNow integration, we want to make sure that there's an understanding between how many requests with the integration, right? So when we talk about DPS requests, we're talking about self-service requests that are being done by either the backup administrator or the end user, right? So we can actually track whether it's per week or per month and see if there's any trending, right? So if there's a hike, so if month of March, we had 54 requests for restores, but in the month of April, we tripled that number. We can see a trending and say, hey, look, so something's going on. Why is there an uptick in restore requests, right? And so that's the piece that not just having Avamar information, but having to show how the ServiceNow and Avamar is integrated together, right? How many people are using it? How many people are leveraging the technology, and how consistent is it, right? So we're able to show that information there as well. And as we continue down into the activities, this is just that, right? We can see all the jobs that are running. And again, it's not just a single line item. We can tell if the job had failed. We can say who is the client that we're backing up. What type of plugin are we using? Is it a VMware image? Is it a Linux image? Are we doing a SQL backup? We can see if it was a request item. We can see where it lives within Avamar. So those of you who have Avamar can see right away all the information in terms of where the client lives, and we can actually go and click on it as well. So it's not just a line item. We can interact with it and pull up information based on that, right? So we can see the description, we can see its backup tag, right? If it's an on-demand backup or if it's a scheduled backup. So we're actually creating all of this information for you. And again, this is the CMDB providing all this referencing back to you.
Bingo. So Eli, I wanna answer this question because I feel like this is a question that a lot of people on the call will have. The question is, what versions of Avamar does this dashboard work with? Do you want to answer that real quick before we move on?
Oh, sure. So right now we're using Avamar version 19.2. Right now Avamar is running on the latest version is 19.3. But I think what's most important is we're leveraging a heavy API set, right? So as long as the API is there, we can integrate with the project, with Avamar.
And I think that's the key thing, right? So no matter what version of Avamar you're running, using Integration Hub and the ability to integrate with APIs will create a scalable solution for you and really allow you to not have to worry about the versioning, more or less just maintaining the integration through the Integration Hub.
Yep. So if we continue on, right, again, I still have my backup administrator or infrastructure administrator hat on. Why is this information important to me, right? So again, if I have multiple Avamar instances or a single Avamar instance, how many clients am I protecting, right? How many policies am I leveraging to protect my clients? And if I want to click on, if I don't necessarily want to log into Avamar, I just want to see real quick what's going on with my Dell Snow 1 client. I can go and click on it and I can see, okay, we had some failed events, right? But I can also go and see all of its backups, right? I can actually go and see, ServiceNow 1 has 3 backups, 3 point-in-time copies, right? Again, more information that I can grasp very, very quickly without having to go into Avamar. And it's the same thing for our policies, right? So if I want to go into a policy, some of you administrators that are out there that have Avamar is the same thing. So if I want to go, how many clients do I have associated to a policy? So if I click on my policy, say this Snow VM testing, I can scroll down and say, these are the 4 clients that are associated to my policy. Again, don't have to go to Avamar because this information is referenced, right? I need to tell business saying, hey, yeah, I'm protecting these this many clients with this policy. Right? I have this type of retention. They're all Windows machines, right? It's about getting information very, very quickly, right, so that we can move on to our tasks, right, and have productive days, right, through automation. And again, if a business is saying, hey, what's going on with the policies? Are they going pretty good? Like, what are there any major events that's going on? I can just go straight to the policy and go look through the event and see what's on. Like backtrack a bit, I did. I can go and see the events that are referenced for that specific policy.
Yeah, so there is a question that I want to address now, and what is the overhead on ServiceNow for all this? So again, ServiceNow has recently come out with what they call Integration Hub, which is a fairly new component of the tool. And that Integration Hub really allows you a single pane of glass for all of your integration. It also allows for ease of integration. So no longer do you have to create lines and lines and lines of code in a script include to call from a REST object that lives within the tool to do that integration. So the overhead on ServiceNow is very low, considering that Integration Hub makes it that easy, right? And the product that we've built here essentially can act as a spoke that we can install in your environment and integrate to your Avamar stack very easily and with low maintenance, right? That was the whole point of building this integration for you all, is to really create what we like to call a scalable and low code, no code type of approach. That said, there are going to be components that have to be maintained as any other product or solution, but the overhead on ServiceNow, should be extremely low and something that is easily done within, your ServiceNow admin team. Also, with the Avamar data protection team, there will be a little bit overhead there as well. I don't want to discount that, but again, this should be a very low lift for everyone involved.
Thanks, Chris. All right. So backup and restore orchestration, right? So what do we put together? The first thing is we are able to orchestrate backups for individual clients or an entire backup policy. So for you Avamar users or future Avamar users, right? There's a feature set to do an on-demand backup of an individual client, or I can kick off a backup on demand for an entire policy. And we wanted to make sure that that specific feature set, right, the distinction between individual and policy is you'll have the ability to do both, right? Because there are events where we disable a policy and we want it to run at a specific set time, right? But we want it to be when I'm ready, not necessarily on a schedule. We could do that through ServiceNow. We can also orchestrate restores for guest, image, and file level recovery, right? So if I want to restore an app, if I want to restore a VMware image, or if I want to restore a file, I can orchestrate that entire process with ServiceNow. We also put the backup and restore for users in a service catalog. So now, as users log into the service catalog and they're asking for help, they will see an option of service levels for backup and restores. And then we also have multi-phase orchestration, right? So we wanted to make sure that there was checks and balances, right? Having self-service backup and restores is great, but if we have 1,000 people kicking them off, we can have an issue, right? And so we wanted to make sure that there was some checks and balances. Yes, we can still have 1,000 requests come in, but it still has to be approved by some form of management, right? Whether it's the infrastructure admin or the NOC or the directors, right? We can say, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and approve these first, right? Let them complete and then keep them going, right? So we don't want to just let everybody have free reign to the environment. Yes, you can go make as many requests as you want, but it's on an approval level. So and that way we can protect our environments from overload.
And these are the components of ServiceNow that we thought was most prudent for the solution. Using the flow designer and the workflow capabilities allows what Eli just described from an approval standpoint. So with that, Eli, I'll turn it back over to you. I just wanted to add that little tidbit.
Cool. So a lot of you users, if you have ServiceNow today, you've seen your service catalog. So this is similar to what you'd be looking for. So again, if I was the end user and I want to kick off a backup, or if I want to do a restore, I can go two options. I can order it, right, where there's more of a request, or I can get help. Most of our users are going to say, well, I need help, right? Something happened. All right, so I'm going to go and get help. And before I go and create an incident, I want to show you that we did put data protection services into the service catalog, right? So they can just, whatever categories you have enabled for them, they can just go and say, okay, I want to do a backup or do a restore. But in most cases, an end user kind of sees this, create an incident. Oh, sorry, too fast. They're going to go straight to here and say, I need to create an incident, right? And so this is the ServiceNow magic that Chris is going to explain. But when I go and say, I need a restore, right? We're going to know what they're asking for. So we're going to want to, so now what we're going to do is deter the end user from creating an incident to creating a request, right? So now I'm going to go and say, oh, look, this pulls up and say, hey, let's do a restore. Chris, you want to talk to that?
Yeah, so thanks. This is really using the metadata that you can put into things like knowledge articles and service catalog items to drive behavior. And really that's what the portal is meant to do. Drive user behavior to the appropriate place so that, you all in IT, your lives can be a lot easier and not having to, communicate back and forth between an incident because you don't have enough information to determine what they really need, or having a bunch of canceled incidents in your incident table that you have to report on or exclude those from reporting. So this is using that metadata, those tags that exist within the service catalog and the functionality, and tagging them appropriately to what the user would type in, as you saw Eli type that in, and then directing their attention based on the modern technology components of the service portal to the correct place, so that you're getting rid of the headaches of the back and forth before you really even figure out what's going on. And that's the ultimate goal when it comes to service portals, driving that user behavior.
And so now, we just kind of see a simple portal, right? So what type of restore do you want? Do you want an image load, or do you want a file level recovery? Now, for the sake of the demo, we like to do a file level recovery because those tend to be the most complicated, right? And also the most common, right? I deleted a file, right? Where is it? And so when a user logs in, right, based on their ownership of a group of virtual machines or a group of applications, ServiceNow is only providing them that context, right? So even if I have 3,000 virtual machines that I'm protecting and 1,000 applications, whatever reference that user has to ownership of an asset, they're only going to see, right? We're not going to open this up to everybody. And then from there, we go and we choose what point in time copy we want to restore from. And then after that, it's basically Windows Explorer, right? We go to where the file is, and then we also choose where we recover the file to, right? So here, we're going to go under our service catalog, our service accounts, and choose a file that has been deleted. And in this case, it's just basically a bunch of PDFs that are out there. So I'm going to go and select this one, and let's select a couple while we're at it, right? So these are the 2 PDFs that got deleted, and I want to go ahead and restore them. Now, you have options, right? We don't have to restore it back into place, right? We can put it into different folders. So if we want to go ahead and put it in a specific restore folder, we can go ahead and do that, and then basically go and say, we check that. Now, what I love about the integration, and again, this is the part of the developers that are talking through this. They'll say, hey, wouldn't it be great if they had a summary of what's happening, right? Because it's one thing to fill out a form, but there's nothing that says, okay, this is what I did, right? And that's exactly what we're doing in the summary. They're like, okay, we're going to restore a file to Snow01, right? We're going to put it in this location, and then here are the 2 restores. Here are the 2 files that we need, right? And then from there, basically hit order now, and then it goes through its process. And you're going to see shortly what we were talking about, the approval phase. So here are the stages that a request would go into, right? So first, the first phase is fill out the form, tell the administrators what file got deleted and what needs to be restored. And then from there, the administrators can either prolong the questioning and saying, okay, we need a little bit more information, but we've made this integration so tight that it's basically yes or no, right? We know what clients, we know the file, we know where it's going, and we've authenticated the user. So at this point, it's either yay or nay. And as an administrator, we say, yep, let's go ahead and finish that request. So if I'm an administrator, I go and I requested items. Go ahead.
Can we go back? I usually don't like to interrupt you, but I think this is a great time for this question that was just submitted, because I think this is probably something a lot of people are wondering. How does it know which backup to restore from? Say it was a week before they discovered the files got deleted. Can you kind of talk through that process of how the tool will help you handle that?
So and that's where we have point in time copies, right? So everything is dated, right? So every backup is dated as well. So if I had my files yesterday, right, or this morning, I know that last night's backups are good. If there are certain versions that we're looking for, we can go back to however many copies that are out there. So I can choose. So if today's Wednesday, today's Tuesday, but I want a file, I made changes to that file on Friday. I can basically from my drop down, can go back from my drop down, choose a backup that occurred that day, and then I could see the version and the date that was modified. Because again, it's still a Windows Explorer view, right? We can see the file extension and when they were created or modified right in the form.
And this just is a perfect example of how the CMDB is leveraging and supporting these requests, because it's storing all that data from the integration and storing it in the CMDB as configuration items, so that you're able to reference that when you are requesting a file restore. And again, these requests are done per user entitlement. So what does that mean? It means that if you don't have access, let's say you're in marketing or HR, those usually aren't people that are going to be requesting this, so they wouldn't see these requests. But these are usually people that are really familiar with infrastructure or the infrastructure analysts themselves that are going to be submitting it. So that data to them makes sense, right? So you won't have people that have to really understand a lot of the data that's presented to them because it's how they're doing their jobs every single day. Sorry about that, Eli. I thought that was the perfect time to bring up that question.
No. Questions are perfect. So this is where we're talking about backup of individual clients or backup policies. So we're still in our service catalog, and I'm an administrator of a group of a farm of virtual machines. And again, it's very straightforward, right? I go and I say, hey, I want to back up that virtual machine. I have 25 backups of already. Go hit order now, and then there it goes, right? And then it goes right back into its approval phase. So once the page loads, forgive me a second, my internet can be up and down. But once it loads, we get right into our approval phase, right? And again, now let's get back and let's be the administrator or the backup administrator. We can go and see, okay, here are our requests, right? We have a request for a restore and we have a request for a backup, right? And again, this is all in real time. So we can go to Avamar and see, okay, we have a process that's waiting, right? So we kicked off a backup, and then we kicked off a restore. And if we look in the bottom here, I'll scroll down. Yeah, here we go. If I scroll down, I can see that the file that we requested completed, right? And then and then here is the on-demand backup that we're kicking off. Now, not to say that you don't believe me, but let's go right into Avamar, right? And if we go straight, so some of you have seen the screen, we can see our activities, right? Here's our restore, a file of a restore of Snow 01, right? It completed. And then here is our backup, our on-demand backup of Snow 03, right? And we can also go right into Snow 01, which is where we completed that file. Right, we go into our restore section, and there are 2 files that we restored, right? And again, that's what I'm saying. All of this is happening in real time. So assuming that the administrator is approving them, right, based on whatever metric, right? If we already have 1,000 requests, obviously that request is going to go into the queue. And we can also add priority, right? If there is a level of urgency, obviously we don't want you to put you at the end of the queue, right? There's going to be a level for any type of restores, deleted files, deleted virtual machines. There's going to be a higher priority there, right? Because that means that there is data that's unavailable to an end user, and that's going to take more precedent over a backup, right? So when administrators are looking at these requests, they're able to say, yeah, restores, they come first, right? We got to make sure restores go first and not backups.
Yeah, and I think that it's key that these dashboards are really going to show you the progress, right? So the top line right there kind of mimics the same dashboard that's in Avamar. And being able to have that information, you no longer have to worry about, is the server actually doing the backup, because that dashboard is going to show you what's waiting, what's pending, what's completed, and they're all interactive, right? So if he clicks in any of those, he's going to be able to see those requests that are completed or those requests that are running. And so all that information is there at your fingertips, which, if you're a ServiceNow administrator or a ServiceNow power user now, that data is a catalog task that, you're just waiting for somebody to respond to. No longer, right? All of this is integrated, all of it is automated, and we're presenting that in the dashboard so you know where all these backup requests are in real time.
And again, this is all information that we can give back to the business, right? How many tickets did we close, right? We had 1,000 requests for the day. We closed 999, right? And that's just all that's gonna do is show the efficiency of your IT department, right? Hey, we're getting tickets in and we're closing them quickly because we're able to automate and orchestrate the process end to end. All right. So the third objective, right, is automating backup remediation and event management, right? So we wanted, again, when we were talking about these objectives, right, what is most important to a business? What is most important to a backup administrator, right? When we have a backup that fails, how can I go and remediate that? How do I know that a failed job happened? And then also, how do I track that, right? How can I tell the business, hey, I'm working on a failed backup, rather than saying I'm busy? Well, why are you busy? Because you don't look like you're busy, right? We've all had this, like, oh my God, what's going on? And because we're having so many requests that are being bombarded, we can't track any of it. Well, now with this, as events are happening, a backup administrator, right, can see an event that's happening, or ServiceNow is going to create an incident, and now the backup administrator can track that almost immediately, right? So if the remedy is just to retry the job, right from the ticket, he or she is able to retry the job, and then basically sign off and say that it's completed. We can also have self-healing for critical clients, right? So we can have it set up so that it's auto restarting for specific clients. So if we have tier 0 or tier 1 level virtual machines or applications, we can set ServiceNow to say, if you see a backup fail from these specific assets, retry the job automatically. If it fails, escalate the ticket, right? Because now this is more for critical clients where their SLAs are very, very critical to the organization. And as we said, incident creation for failed backups. It's not enough to track an event, right? Say, hey, there was an event that happened with Avamar. It looks like a failed backup. That's okay information, but let's take that to the step further and say, now let's create an incident ticket, right? Automatically, failed backup, incident tickets created. Now there's tracking. Now there's oversight, right? The NOC can see, hey, there's a couple failed backups. They can also see who's in charge of, who took control of the ticket, right? Or if nobody's taking control of the ticket, assign it and say, hey, we need to do something about this.
And I think this is where,
go ahead.
That's really where, ITSM comes into this integration in full force. Being able to have that automated assignment as well as automated resolution. All of us who have done anything in the ITIL space with incident management have seen that ticket trading that goes on. Now, because it's automated and you don't have to have that back and forth, and those tickets can go a lot faster and not sit in the queue, even though they may not be the highest priority for your incident management resolution team. Additionally, that breeds better customer service, right? If I can get my file restore done automatically, I'm now really happy with IT because my incident got done in 5 minutes versus 5 days. And so these are some concepts that are kind of those icing on the cake type of scenarios that really help customers when it comes to automation, right? And should always be a part of your automation strategy. And really thinking about how I can improve SLAs. SLAs are always improved by automation. It's just, it's a fact of the matter and why we put it into this integration piece as well. Sorry, Eli, go for it.
Yep. No, thank you for that. So again, we are tracking events that are happening within Avamar, right? And it's everything. It's not just failed backups, failed checkpoints, failed NICs, failed HFS validations, right? So for those of you who have Avamar today, you know that Avamar protects itself with snapshots. And it also validates the snapshots by validating all the hash blocks against itself, against the file system, right? And so consistent failures of that can be an issue because now we don't have a point in time where we can restore Avamar in the event of a disaster. So what we did, again, the thing is, now we have incident generation. So it's not enough. It wasn't enough for us to track an event. It really isn't. We really want to create something that's tangible and say, I see that there was an event. I'm going to create an incident and I'm going to track it this way. And we can actually, and with that, we can start creating metrics with the efficiency of our IT team, right? And so for you IT directors that are out there, those are the numbers you want to show to the business. Hey, last month we had 10,000 tickets, right? We served up 99% of them. Everyone's happy, right? And so these are all metrics that you show back to the business to say, IT is really showing a value to the business And we're actually able to show that with these ticket generations, right? That's important. It's one thing to, keeping the lights on is great, but nobody knows everything that it takes to keep that light on, right? All the issues, all the bugs, maintenance that needs to happen, all the integrations that need to go with that. No one really cares. They just want to know, is the light on? With this type of tracking, you can show that back to the business and say, hey, look, all these issues that have come up with our end users, with applications, we handled them, right? And we were able to turn this over with with a 99% turnover rate perfectly, right? And beyond that, if we go ahead and we look at one of our incidents, just want to filter for one here. So if I go and I look at my failed backup, so right away we're going to see, okay, we failed to initiate a virtual machine backup, right? It was for Snow 01, so we know it's for our Avamar instance. We're pulling in some of the log information, right? Where they say, oh, hey, it was a failed initiation. This is what happened. It's because there was no proxy. Now, in most cases, that's not a proper failure. This is just a way that we can create to generate a failure. And a restore doesn't necessarily fix it, right? We need to apply the proxy to a policy. But for the sake of, hey, this is what a failed backup would look like, I can automatically go and say, yep, I see that this is a failed backup. I think the best way to do is rerun the client backup. And I can just click on the button, right? Hit OK, and then off it goes. Right? So essentially now, right from our ticket, right? I don't have to go to another screen. I don't have to go to Avamar. I don't have to track anything down. I saw what the event was. I'm going to rerun the job. And I'm actually tracking that end to end, right? And beyond the button as well, that where we can retry, we can also go, we're also tracking that in the bottom, right? We can say, well, maybe a couple of these will fix it for us as well. So we're actually able to get to resolution a lot faster with this type of integration.
And again, this is using basic principles of ServiceNow, the UI actions, utilizing information in the CMDB to trigger the integrations. A lot of this stuff, is probably functionality that a lot of you already are licensed for. It's just a matter of implementing and putting the concepts in place. So the way we productized this wasn't that, oh, you got to have all these different licenses and it needs to be, expensive from a license and a services perspective. That's not the goal. The goal was really to utilize a lot of the basic components of ServiceNow and utilizing that new component and integration hub to be able to facilitate the automation for your organizations that are on the call, right? And then creating a dashboard for you to report on. So I do see that there was a question about that, and I wanted to address that. This isn't a ServiceNow license that you need to procure. It's something we'll work with you on from an integration hub standpoint, but I'd say 98% of the functionality is something you probably already own and just utilizing those pieces of the platform to do.
Right. Thank you for that. So, so we're going to wait for a couple of questions to come through, but some of the ones that come up commonly is, what do I need to get this running today, right? What needs to happen? So obviously, we've worked with some of you guys. We've worked with a lot of your sales reps on the Dell side. We can do this during a sales opportunity. So if you guys are evaluating Avamar as a backup application and also evaluating ServiceNow or already have ServiceNow and looking into integrating, we can essentially help you through that process, right? So whether you have ServiceNow or have Avamar already or looking at it, we can help you during those phases, right? So we can help you during the planning, what you need to get ready, what components you need to that are required in order to get this particular integration running.
Great question here. I do want to address right now because I think it's something that a lot of folks will want to know the answer to. The multiple sites of Avamar, and they just keep adding. Can you kind of talk about how repeatable the process is to onboard new Avamar sites and servers and proxies, Eli?
Yes. So we literally just talked about this on our Monday morning meeting. So what we started building now is an add-in for this particular instance where you will see a button within your dashboard to say add more Avamars, right? Initially, what we want to do is, depending on what type of integration, so if you're out there and you have 50 virtual machines, 50 Avamar instances, we have an entire briefing that covers the base implementation and the add-on of every Avamar. Once we've gone through the base implementation and added 50 Avamars, and let's just say that we need to add 10 more, right? Because we're running in Tokyo, we're running in Russia, we're running in Europe. We would essentially, now that we've had the integration built for you, you would have a clickable button that takes you to a form. And it says, okay, give me the IP of Avamar. Give me the username. Please let me know the location of the Avamar. And then once you have all the information, you would hit apply, and then we would orchestrate that on the back end to start pulling in information from that particular Avamar into this specific dashboard.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of ServiceNow, right? Creating a scalable solution for you so that as you grow and as you expand your capabilities, ServiceNow expands and grows with you. And the capabilities grow as well. And you don't need a huge project every time you want to onboard a site. And that's the ultimate goal. When we talk about automation, we're not just talking about the nuts and bolts. We're really talking about the scalability as well. And that's one of the core principles that we've put into this product.
Cool. I can't see the.
There's one more question.
You see them, yeah.
Here's another question. What is the pulling time ServiceNow is taking to the Avamar servers? I'll let you go ahead and answer that one, being so intimately involved in the integration piece.
That's a developer's question.
Yep.
We tried to have it as to near zero as possible. I know that there is a limit to the referencing tables. So I can't remember if it was every 60 seconds or every 30 seconds, but it is an interval that can be adjusted, but it has to be what you're paying for, right? So and that's more to the CMDB, right? Depending on how much information we can pull in and we're licensed for, that's how frequent we can get the information. And to take that a step further was, well, how do I know that? Is once we start walking through this procedure with you, right, we're starting to integrate ServiceNow and data protection, we're doing assessments into your ServiceNow portfolio, right? What type of CMDB do you have, right? What type of license do you have? Do you even have a CMDB? And we're coming up with all of these different items to make sure that you have everything you need. Now we do have two different ones, one with a CMD and one without. Obviously, we recommend having the CMDB so that we can pull more information. But during the entire assessment, we're actually making sure that you have everything you need in order to achieve the type of view that you want, right? So we're not just saying, hey, you can only do 60 seconds, right? Or every 5 minutes. We want to make sure that you have everything you need within ServiceNow to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's where, you got to look at it from where you're a client-specific scenario. If 30 seconds makes sense, make it 30 seconds. If 60 seconds makes sense, make it 60 seconds. It's about not affecting the performance on both ends and really ensuring that automation is up to best practice architectural standards on both sides. And so, while nothing with ServiceNow is ever near real time, we can certainly get as close to it as possible without really affecting the instances of Avamar and ServiceNow. And again, with upgrades and things like that, you really got to make sure that you keep that at top of mind to make sure that I'm going to keep saying it, but it's a scalable platform that can be, expanded at will. And that's really the goal. All right, so I think we've answered all the questions. So if you have some, please feel free to add them. I mean, we've got plenty of time. I think Eli went through some of the common questions. This again, think of this as something that supports the CMDB, utilizes Integration Hub, as well as the service catalog that give you that full stack product.
Yep. And, again, this is available today, right? We have, our teams are ready to deploy this in your environments today. It's basic. It's as simple as reaching out to us via web, via Twitter, via website, through your Dell rep or through one of our reps. We can hit the ground running very, very quickly, right? So depending on how fast you want to move, if you yourself want a personal demo, right? You want to take this up the ladder and show management because you want this type of integration, it's just a request away, right? You guys, again, through any of our social media, through our website, through our webs, through our core reps here at AHEAD, or the reps through Dell, make that request and we'll make it happen for you, right? So we could definitely do this, repeat this a similar demo for you and your higher ups, right? So if you have a director that wants to see this, if you want a CIO or a CTO that wants to see this, we could definitely do that for them as well. And then I'm sure Caitlin and our marketing team is going to follow up with you guys with a survey and any requests.
Also, if you miss any questions or you don't really feel like asking the questions as a group, please feel free to get a hold of us. We're happy to also answer more questions about this, or maybe do a little bit deeper dive session. So please either reach out to the client director that you talk to on a daily basis, or our marketing team, or Eli and myself. I don't really have any more questions in the queue, so I guess I'll turn it back over to Caitlin. I want to thank everybody on the call for their attention and the interaction. We certainly appreciate that, and just know that as any good product, this is ever moving forward on our end, and there'll be other iterations of this and other features. And so, stay tuned because we'll probably do another Avamar webinar when we roll some more features out for you. So thanks, everybody. Have a great week, and I'll turn it over to Caitlin to wrap us up.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Awesome presentation. So thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate having you on this call. This session was recorded and will be uploaded onto our website after for future views, as well as we have a demo on thinkahead.com as well, if you'd like to go for a deeper dive there. But thanks again for joining us today, and we hope to see you soon.